Hi, our guest today is Brian Murray, the current state representative for the 10th Worcester District, which encompasses Milford, Hopedale, Mendon, and a sliver of Medway. Brian, you're running again for the second term on Tuesday, November 6th state election. Welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. It's nice to be here.
So I guess the first question is, how'd the first term go? And what are your goals? Why should people vote for you for second term?
Well, thank you. The first term was very interesting. It was challenging. It was a learning experience. I found that there are a lot of things that come at you from a lot of different angles. I certainly enjoyed it. I think that I was productive and certainly able to get some things done for the district as well as across the board.
Well, I know you certainly brought money home to the towns.
Yeah, we were very lucky. I was able to get some funding in Milford for the opioid task force in both years to allow that to expand in other communities, which is very, very important. Mendon, had some needs with their police department expansion, so we were able to get some funds for that last year. And then this most recent year, I was able to secure some funding for the expansion of the senior center, which is very, very important. I also, I think, built up a nice relationship with the new Mendon Library, the Taft Library, which is a beautiful building, and was able to participate in some meetings and some programs there with your director, Andrew Genrich, and that's a great facility. It's really on the starting end of things, and it's got a lot of potential.
Not bad for a renovated church.
Not bad at all, not bad at all, and hopefully if I'm reelected, I know that the building next to it is still a bit of an issue, and something needs to be done with that, and hopefully I can target some funding towards that to try to assist the town and the library to make some sort of use of that or do something with it. So
that would be great.
Yeah, so there are a lot of needs in Mendon, but I've enjoyed working with the selectmen and working with other town leaders and really developing some of the needs that they have. But
you've also brought home a lot of funds to Milford.
Yeah, Milford.
I mean, you also had the Pheno pool this year.
Yes, I was able to get funding for the Pheno Field pool renovation, which I think is a big part of the community. It's been around as long as I have. It's very, very important for a lot of people who don't get a chance to go away in the summertime. And working with Senator Fatman, I was able to get money for the downtown revitalization of $150,000.
That's quite a bit.
It is, and that's important, I think, for that committee going forward. They're looking to establish some guidelines. They're looking to get some technical assistance. So it's going to be interesting to see how that committee goes forward. And I know Senator Fatman and myself are both very glad to be able to help out on that.
Okay. I know this is going to be more of a difficult question, but one of the things I see people complaining about your first 2 years were you sponsored a bill to put tolls on most of the roads in Massachusetts. Do you want to explain that?
Sure.
I thought it was, quite honestly, as a Metro West resident, I thought it was a way of saying, hey, we've been paying the big dig through the Mass Bike tolls. Why don't you pay some? But am I missing that, or was that your intent, or is are you really trying to gouge everybody in the state for more money?
No, not at all. In fact, it was part of a package that the Metro West legislators have been working on long before I came there. And as you stated, we in Central Mass are in an unfair situation. The Central Mass and the Western Mass driver really bear the burden of tolls in the Commonwealth to the exclusion of any other drivers from the north and the south.
Yeah, as I've always said, the east-west guys are paying for the north-south guys.
Right. So the Metro West delegation has been working for years to try to get equity in the toll situation, basically by looking to get other representatives to agree with removing the tolls. But something, The fact is, it doesn't affect other legislators, so they have no interest in trying to get rid of the tolls. The bill that I filed was in step with the Metro West delegation, and when I testified before the Committee on Transportation, I said exactly what it was. It was a purpose bill. The purpose is to show other legislators from the north and the south what our constituents suffer every day as they try to go to work. So now if you put that on the table and place it in that light, then you're forcing other legislators to look at the situation. And the fact of the matter is, unless the Commonwealth is prepared to use tolls as transportation funding in an equal and equitable fashion, which is what I testified before the committee, then all tolls should be removed, and we shouldn't be using it as a source of funding. So it's an approach to get the attention of other legislators so that they can see what our constituents are going through. And that's really the only way you're going to bring other people to the table. So it's interesting, Kevin, so what's happened out of that whole transportation discussion, because the administration knows that the funding is needed for transportation. So the governor has appointed a commission to study the future of transportation, which is currently getting started now and underway. So the whole toll package, all the other bills were filed by Senator Spilka and other representatives, because I wasn't the only one that filed a toll bill.
And correct me if I'm wrong, she's now the Senate President.
She is the Senate President.
So there's some weight there.
Exactly. So you know, she was the leader of the Metro West delegation on this to try to get an equitable view of the tolling situation and provide relief, not increased tolling, but relief to the Central Mass driver. So now the governor has appointed a commission to study the future of transportation, and everything's on the table in terms of public transportation, roads, bridges, and also funding.
Well, I have to tell you, as somebody who frequently drives to Boston, in fact, I went to a doctor's appointment at Brigham and Women's downtown Boston today. You know, I think, well, you would probably know better than me, but I think we're up to 5-something a round trip in tolls just to go to Boston and back.
Probably. You know, even before I got elected, when they were putting forth the electronic gantries, I went to a hearing of the Department of Transportation that they had in Worcester, and there was the proposed tolling amounts that they were looking to do. And I stood up at that hearing because we ran through the scenario from Milford going into Boston, and I forget exactly what the number was, but it was probably about $2 to $3 more than what it was prior to the electronic gantries. And well, it's less than what they had been proposing. So I stood at that hearing even before elected as a state representative and said, this isn't right, it's not fair, you've got to change these numbers. We're the ones that are being unfairly burdened with tolls.
Yeah, and I'll tell you personally, as somebody who, you know, decades ago had to do the Sumner and Callahan tunnels to go to and from Logan Airport, I have no problem paying a toll to use the Ted Williams Tunnel if I can cruise right straight down the pike into Logan Airport. I don't have a problem paying for that one. Right. I do have a problem paying just to go to Boston when all the people on the North Shore and the South Shore don't pay anything.
Right. And the only way that you're going to get the attention of other legislators is by having it affect their districts.
Right.
For years, the Metro West delegation has been pleading to get toll equity, to reduce the tolls in our area, and it's fallen on deaf ears.
Well, I think
so at some point you have to change the dynamic and say, okay, how would you like to have what we have in our district in your district? And I think it made a difference.
Okay. I was
so that was the game plan behind it. Okay. But of course, I know that there were folks out there from different factions that, of course, twisted it for their own purposes and own needs, and
Sam is that you voted yourself a pay raise.
Yes, yes. The other thing, yes.
You and I have gone over that, and I actually proved in one of my columns that you took a pay cut.
Yeah, I did not vote for a pay increase for me. If there is still any other question out there, I know that there are rumors and allegations that I somehow voted myself a 40% pay increase. I will tell you that my salary when I was sworn in as a state legislator is $62,000 a year. My salary is still $62,000 a year.
Right.
There was no increase to my salary whatsoever. The vote was to increase stipends for the leadership positions, Speaker of the House, Chairman of committees. Those stipends had been the same since 1982.
But
They hadn't changed in 35 years.
yeah. Didn't it also, though, didn't that vote also cap or lower the expense money
Well,
because I know I was astonished when you told me at a Boy Scout Eagle Court of Honor that you have to pay for those citations you hand out.
Oh, absolutely.
I
sure,
thought that was
yeah.
part of the,
Yeah,
the
no,
gig
no.
was you just get to hand those out. You actually have to pay for the folders, the paper.
Exactly, sure. Yeah, we don't get anything from, well, for example, when I was a selectman, the town of Milford would fund citations
Right.
and anything that you needed. We don't get that at the state. We're all self-budgeted. So we now have an expense account. The prior expense account used to be $7,000 or what it was. So they increased the expense account to $15,000.
But they took your mileage away.
Yeah,
didn't they?
there's no reimbursement for any mileage or anything like that. But the expense account is needed to fund things like that. So when you issue the citations, you have to pay for the covers.
So when you go out and congratulate somebody for being 100 years old with a proclamation, you're probably paying $10 for all that.
Oh, sure.
Folder and
At
stuff.
least,
I never
yeah.
knew that.
Yeah, the folders are expensive. I go to Staples, I buy the gold seals. My wife goes to Joann Fabrics, buys me the blue ribbon. So you have to do all of that
I
together.
didn't realize that.
I mean, the other thing that you
Yeah.
have to do is, and one of the bills that I filed and actually got signed into law was to approve the transfer of assets from the Milford Water Company to the town of Milford. Well, to get that bill through, I needed to serve the Board of Selectmen. I needed to actually do a publication in the Milford Daily News. Now, mind you, there were no forms to do this. There's no templates. It's
Right.
something that I figured out and put together. But there was a charge of over $200 to do that. That's something that I have to pay for. So there's a number of things like that maybe folks don't realize and aren't aware of, and that's what the expense account is for. And I know that there were claims and allegations that the expense account adds to retirement benefits. It does not. It does not. It does not count towards
No, in
any
fact,
retirement
didn't
benefits.
former Representative
You're-
Parente
you're-
sued over that and lost?
You're exactly right.
That the expense and the mileage didn't count to the
You're
pension.
you're exactly right. That is, in fact, the seminal case. That you're exactly right.
So I think,
You're
well,
exactly
people
right.
forget.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there was no pay increase that
Well-
I voted for myself.
That covers your first term. What are
Yes.
you hoping you do in the second term?
When I first got elected, I said that, I stressed that, I was going to serve the constituents and take care of folks' needs in the community. And I think I did that. My tracking system, we dealt with over 750 constituent concerns or issues. That could have been emails, telephone calls, letters, varying from questions on particular bills to folks having difficulty with mass health, problems with the registry of motor vehicles, maybe housing. It was all across the gambit. So I like to think that I fulfilled my promise with that. I think that's a very important part of the job. I took it very seriously, and I would continue to take that seriously as I move forward, hopefully to a second term.
Well, I would hope that your background on the school committee and selectmen would make you attuned to people's concerns like that.
Absolutely. It's so frustrating for people to try to deal with state agencies. Sometimes it seems like the black hole, and that's what I think I was able to do, hopefully for some folks, to cut through a lot of the issues and try to help them out with things. So I was able to do that. I was able to get 5 bills actually signed into law for local concerns, which I think is very, very helpful. On a little bit of a broader scheme, I was asked to serve as co-chair of the Library Legislative Caucus, which oversees and advocates for the entire state library budget. So that's something that
Right, and I know you came to a regional forum at Milford Town Library.
Yes, yes.
This year to learn more about the library director's concerns.
Yes. Well, actually, I was very fortunate to sit down with our library director, Sue Edmonds, who was very, very knowledgeable, because when I first got named to this, and of course I had a working knowledge of libraries,
Right.
From being a selectman, but I didn't really know the budget as well as I should have. So I sat down with Sue. I said, will you show me, where these line items are and what they are with the library? And she gave me a great education in terms of, what each individual line item meant. And that was very helpful when I met with the Board of Library Commissioners. So I'm pleased to say that we were able to get increases in all of the library line items.
Wow.
You know, to the extent that the Board of Library Commissioners were requesting. So that was very successful. And I'd also gone to a regional meeting in the Mendon Library too. Andrew Genrich is part of a Central
Right.
Mass, kind of a consortium or whatever, and met with a number of directors from some of the real small libraries out in the area, and listened to some of their concerns and got some ideas about how we might be able to help out on that. So that's something going forward that I'd like to build on and improve on. I think some of the broader issues that we're looking at, I think that we need to do a better job with renewable energy across our state. We did come forward with a bill this term, which I think is good, but we really need to do a lot more than that. The economic development, the advanced manufacturing component, very, very important to our area. We did pass a bond bill for that. I think that the next step is to maybe fine-tune that and see what we can do in terms of our district to try to bring some of those benefits here. And you know, I guess on a broad base looking forward, the foundation budget for funding schools, I don't think has really been touched since 1993.
I know it's been quite a while.
And I think, you know, a lot of things have happened. Schools out in our area, I think, have different pressures and concerns that they had 25 years ago. So there was an effort to reform that formula, to reallocate funding to some schools out in areas other than the urban schools.
Yeah.
I signed on to that proposal. I was advocating for it. It didn't get passed, but it came very close. And I'm hopeful that, you know, in the next session, that's something that we can get over the goal line.
That's great. That's great. This is a kind of an off-the-wall question. Do you miss being a selectman? I mean, you were what, 16 years?
16 years.
Do you miss it at all?
That's a good question. And to be honest with you, I mean, I really enjoyed being a selectman. I had very good contact with people. I do miss it to a certain degree. This is a different type of job. With a selectman, you had more of an impact on a particular issue. Here, I'm one of 160. And I mean, it's good that I'm in the majority party, and I think that, you know, I was able to get some successes for our district. But, you know, there is something awfully gratifying about talking to a particular resident about an issue on a street and being able to fix it or help them with it in a relatively quick fashion. It's a little bit more circuitous on the state level.
Well, it's moving up to a different ladder of government that's, I think, one step removed. I've always felt that selectmen and town meeting are the most responsive forms of government in the country.
Sure, absolutely.
Because, well, let's face it, people can go to your house, they can see you in the supermarket. In your case, they could go to your law office on Main Street, and you can't hide. Where when you start going up the food chain, especially being Washington, it's so much harder to get an impact.
Sure.
Or a meeting with the legislators that, you know, so I think it is a different step, but you're still pretty accessible. I mean, you're
Yeah.
at most of the local events.
Yeah, I've tried to go to every event that I can. I think it's important. I think it's a big part of the job. My law office is on Main Street, and it's a very accessible office. I'm not one of those lawyers that you have to call and make appointments. People just walk in. And I mean, that's the way I was raised. That's the way my father ran the office for years. So to me, it's nothing new. I had today, before I came here, I think I probably had close to half a dozen people that just came into my office that wanted to talk about certain things. And I think that's very important for the community to be accessible. You know, when people want to get a hold of me, I give them my local number. You know, don't try to call the State House to try to get through to the State House is a crazy thing. Call me in Milford.
Well, I just look at it as, do I really want to drive to Boston to see you?
No.
And you are local.
Yeah.
And I will say, since I did go to meet with you since I am an assessor in a neighboring town, and I did go on our assessor's legislative day, you were very receptive to us coming in and
Yeah.
and talking about our bill, which you probably had no idea what it was. But
Well, there's over 7,000 bills that get filed,
Wow.
as you know, and then you have your committee responsibilities, which break down an area of bills that you get a little bit more knowledge of because they're involved in your committee, but bills outside of your committee are difficult, so you have to research them and find out what you can about them.
and then each committee makes a recommendation to the whole,
Exactly.
and then it's up to you to accept that or do your own research.
Well, then, you know, there's the steering and policy committee, which is kind of like the traffic cop, you know, which, you know, lets
Yeah.
things come in and go and not. And then, of course, the leadership sets the agenda in terms of, you know, what we'll be voting on, what we'll be acting on or not.
So it must be hard then to get a local bill through all those channels.
It's very hard. It's very hard.
I mean, the one on the water company, for example.
Well, there were three. There were
Okay.
three actual bills that I got passed on the water
let's
company.
tie them together.
Yep.
How many steps did you have to go through to get those approved?
Well, one of them, the one that I described about the assets was very difficult because it involved a very rare statute. And I remember talking to Jerry Moody about it, town council,
Right.
and he said, boy, I don't know. I approached House Counsel about it. Geez, I haven't seen one of these since I've been here. I talked to some of the senior legislators to
Right.
get a little bit of an idea. Geez, I don't know, you're on your own on that one. So I basically, you know, just read the statute, and with my legal background and my involvement in actually estate work, the process was similar to
Right.
what I do in estates, kind of fashioned some documents and put some things together and worked it with the town of Milford. That had to go also to the Secretary of State's office.
Wow.
There had to be publication. It went before the committees on municipalities, which fortunately I was a member of, and Jim O'Day, who's the rep out of Worcester, excellent representative, got very friendly with Rep O'Day, and he helped me out big time in terms of getting those bills out of that committee very quickly. From there, it went on to 2 or 3 other committees, which then I had to stay after the chairperson to say, look, this bill is very important to me, very important to my community. You know, can we get it through? Do you have any issues? Do you have any questions? And I was able to get it through steering and policy, ways and means, third reading.
And then it eventually had to go to the
And
floor
then
for a vote.
Exactly.
And the leadership basically also had to be want it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I
yeah.
didn't realize it was that hard. So when
Yeah.
somebody, for instance, there are 2 articles on the October special town meeting warrant here in Milford for people wanting liquor licenses beyond the number allowed. You have to shepherd those through a bunch of committees?
Yeah, and we've already started that process on those particular bills. So the new town council, Charles Bodie,
Yeah.
sent those to me and asked me to review them prior to putting together the warrant. I got a hold of House Counsel and said, can you help me with these? Do they look okay? Do we need some changes? There were some revisions. Got it back to Attorney Bodie. That's what's now going to be on the warrant. So
Right, but just to help a local business, you've got to go through all these steps.
absolutely, it's the same process.
So when we
sure.
hear 9 months later, oh, that got approved,
Yeah.
it was not like you just walked in and said, hey, guys, approve this.
No, it's multiple, you know, steps along the way. Now, I was, you know, a lot of legislators have local bills. Now, I was, I don't know, I mean, I like to get things done. Do you know what I mean? I don't like
Yeah.
things sitting on my desk. I get a little nervous about things. So I got those done as quick as I could. As we ended the session, not all legislators did that, and several were scrambling to get local bills passed. And I didn't want to be in that position. You know, it's like when you're in school, you know, you want to
Yeah.
make sure you study for the test and you're all done. And so I got them done quickly so that at the end of the session, I could focus on the larger issue bills because we had gotten the local ones taken care of.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, Brian. You want to just talk to the people about why you're going for a second term? You want to just tell people why that you think
Well, I
that they
think
should
with
vote for you?
anybody who runs for office, I mean, this is really a job interview. And, you know, to look for future performance, you really need to look at past performance and see if I did what I said I was going to do. So when I ran for this 2 years ago, as I told you, I said that I was going to stress constituent service and make sure that our district is well taken care of. And I'd like to think that I did that. I handled a number of individual concerns from constituents, well over 750. I work closely, I think, with the boards of selectmen from all of the towns that I represent, and also the school administrations to try to find out what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning on the job. I'm learning about my other communities. I'm learning about Mendon. I'm learning about Hopedale. I'm learning about Medway and how I can best try to help them. And I think that I was able to do that in the first term. And I think that the experience that I've had and the work that I've done is a great foundation for going forward and accomplishing even more in a second term.
Okay. Brian, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Wish you luck on
Appreciate
November
it.
6th. And as always, I'll quote my Milford TV colleague Al Crier, please vote.
That's right. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.